One day, when he was 11, Alan was taken round to his mother's friend's house. His mother often went there, but Alan did not usually go with her. However, as it was school holidays and there was no one to look after him at home and his mother refused to leave him by himself, he accompanied her. When they arrived, the two women immediately began to natter and Alan was dispatched upstairs to play with the woman's two daughters, Emma, who was in the year above Alan at school, and Jane, who was in the year below. The girls were playing a sort of dressing-up game, pretending to be a criminal gang. Emma was the leader of the gang and various dolls were the other members. Jane was the various shopkeepers, police and bank staff who ran across the gang. The lower bunk of the girls' beds doubled as a prison cell whenever members of the gang got captured and needed rescuing. Alan was quickly drafted to be one of the gang as Emma's sidekick. It wasn't as much fun as a game of war or cowboys and Indians, but it was much better than a doll's tea party or something. A couple of robberies into the game, Emma decided that her gang needed better disguises to rob a bank for their next job. She dug around in the dressing-up chest and threw Alan a tartan skirt and frilly blouse. You can be disguised as a Scottish person to get into the bank. When they let you in, you have to rob all the money, then come back to the hideout to get changed. I'm not wearing a skirt, protested Alan. It's not a skirt, stupid, it's a kilt. It's a skirt, I'm not wearing girls' clothes. I'm gang leader and you have to do what I say. It's a kilt and you have to wear it as your disguise. Scottish men wear kilts all the time, don't you even know that? Of course I know that. Then it doesn't matter if you wear one then, does it? But it's a skirt, not a kilt. No, it's a kilt, not a skirt, and you have to wear it because I'm in charge. Now put it on or you can't be in my gang. Sheepishly, Alan took the skirt, trying to tell himself that the short pleated garment was a kilt instead of a skirt. It was obviously not a kilt. At least it obviously wasn't a man's kilt. First, Emma made him remove his t-shirt and put on the frilly blouse. He protested at this but got argued into wearing it as frilly shirts went with kilts. Alan was still trying to convince himself he was wearing boys' clothes as Emma fastened the buttons up the back of the blouse and wrapped the skirt round his waist. Alan tried again to argue, but Emma insisted he take his trousers off instead of just rolling the legs of them up under the skirt. It took about another 10 minutes of arguing before she managed to convince Alan that Scottish men wore nothing under their kilts and that he should remove his underpants. Soon Alan was pretending to rob a bank, the spare bedroom, in his frilly blouse and short, pleated skirt. It was lucky he didn't look in a mirror, as he would have been horrified by how girlish he looked in the short skirt, frilly blouse, and with his shoulder-length, curly blonde hair. Jane decided that he had been spotted and the alarm was sounded and Alan had to make a getaway back to the gang hideout, the girls' bedroom, with the police chasing him. When he got there, Emma said that he'd been followed and that they had to get rid of all the evidence. Unfortunately for Alan, part of Emma's frantic attempt to hide the evidence while policewoman Jane was trying to open the door was throwing his boy clothes out of the window into the garden. Emma managed to hide and Alan was arrested by policewoman Jane and taken into custody, still wearing the frilly blouse and tartan skirt. Jane had insisted on handcuffing him by tying his wrists behind his back with one of her hair ribbons. While Emma and the rest of the gang were making a plan to rescue Alan from the police, Jane was questioning her subject. So, you thought you could get away with this robbery by pretending to be a girl, eh? I'm not, I'm pretending to be Scottish. While your disguise didn't work, me and Sergeant Teddy Bear caught you red-handed, trying to hide the money under your skirt. It's a kilt, not a skirt. Admit it, you tried to rob the bank, didn't you? No, said Alan, going along with the game. It wasn't me, I was just trying to put some money into the bank. Ha! thought you could get away with that excuse, eh? We have your fingerprints everywhere. You get 10 years in prison for being naughty. Take him away, Sergeant Teddy Bear. Alan was led over to the bunk bed and shoved onto the bottom bunk. Frantically he tried, with his wrists still tied behind him, to tug the skirt down to cover himself as he fell back on the bed. Jane picked something up from on the floor. Don't try to escape from my prison or I'll make you eat this spider. She held it out towards him, and Alan, who was petrified of spiders, gave a high-pitched scream, struggled off the bed and ran to the other side of the room. Giggling, Jane ran towards him with it. Alan screamed and ran again, but the bedroom door was closed and his hands were tied, so he was trapped in the room. Emma and Jane were both in fits of laughter at his antics. Jane let the spider go out of the window and turned back to hear Emma laughing. You screamed like a little girl. Did not, shouted Alan, angry at reacting that way in front of two girls and suddenly even more embarrassed at what he was wearing. Yes, you did, jeered Emma. You screamed like a little girl. A little girl with pink ribbons in her hair. No, I didn't, said Alan, nearly crying with embarrassment. Only little girls with pink ribbons in their hair and frilly dresses scream like that at spiders. Fortunately, the two girls let up on him quite quickly and they went back to the game. Alan's wrists were untied from behind his back and tied to the post of the bunk bed as he was in prison. Jane was pretending to do paperwork and chatting to Sergeant Teddy Bear about catching the rest of the gang. Emma had changed into one of her mom's old pinafores to pretend to be a cleaning lady to get into the prison and rescue her gang member. She had a bag with her and pretended to do a bit of cleaning until policewoman Jane's suspicions were quelled. I've come to rescue you, she whispered to her pretend gang member. Untie me, quick, said Alan, wanting his wrists freed as he felt vulnerable in the skirt with nothing on underneath it. At least with his hands free he would be able to hold the hem down as he sat on the bed. Not yet, in case the policewoman comes in and sees us. We have to disguise you so you can escape. With typical childish make-believe game logic, Emma explained how the only way for him to escape was to disguise himself as a princess, then the policewoman would have to let him go if he was not the criminal. Alan refused to be disguised as a princess, but there really wasn't much he could do with his wrists tied to stop Emma producing a pink pair of panties from the bag and tucking them up his legs. He couldn't stop her putting her hands up his short skirt and pulling the panties into place round his hips. Next she grabbed his curly blonde hair and tied it into two bunches, each secured in a big, fussy bow with a pink satin ribbon. I told you only little girls with their hair in pink ribbons scream like that at spiders. She put pink frosted lipstick on his lips and removed the short skirt he was wearing, leaving him standing there in pink panties and a frilly white blouse. She pulled a pink satin dress from the bag. It was one she had worn the previous year when she had been a bridesmaid. The dress was candy pink with frothy lace round the sweetheart neckline, the hem and the cuffs of the long sleeves. The sleeves were puffed out prettily at the shoulder and literally dozens of soft floaty petticoats were built into the full circle skirt of the dress. Emma unzipped the back of the dress, arranged the skirt and held it out for Alan to step into. Quick, into your disguise, before the policewoman comes in and catches us. I'm not wearing that. Are you mad? I'm a boy, I won't dress like a princess. Never. You have to or you'll be stuck here in prison. I don't want to play this stupid game anymore, I'm not wearing that dress. Untie me and get my clothes back from the garden. No. You can untie yourself and get your own clothes from the garden. But our moms will see me if I go downstairs. I can't go like this or in the kilt, whined Alan. It's not a kilt, it's a skirt, said Emma. It's one of my mom's old skirts. You've already been wearing a skirt, You might as well put this dress on if you want me to get your clothes back for you. But... Or we could bring the spider back in if you don't wear it. No. Please don't make me wear it. Emma held the skirt of the dress out for him to slip his legs into. Burning red, Alan obeyed and she pulled the dress up round his hips. She untied his wrists from the bed and removed the blouse he was wearing so she could pull the bodice of the dress up. She zipped him into it and immediately he tried to undo it but could not reach the zip. He couldn't even undo the button at the top of the zip. Presently, Alan had to pretend to be a princess who had been mistaken for a criminal so he would be let out of prison. Policewoman Jane finally agreed after Princess Allison had curtsied and promised that she was a real princess and not a criminal in disguise and had agreed to have dinner with the policewoman and her toys. Alan spent the next half hour sitting prettily on the floor of the room, pretending to be a princess with his full skirt and petticoats spread out around him. He saw his reflection in the mirror. His mother had kept his hair long as a younger child as it drew so many admiring comments. Alan had hated it because many people thought he was a young girl. Now he was getting older. Some of the girls he was becoming interested in seemed to like it, so he had kept it longish. He was amazed to see how girlish his hair looked when it was tied into 2 bunches with the pink ribbons. He was also amazed to discover that he quite liked how it looked in a strange way. Alan was torn between the wonderful feeling of the soft satin dress on his skin and the hatred of being forced to wear girls' clothes. Jane brought another one of her toys out to meet the princess and she puppeteered the toy's conversation. "Hello, princess. What's your name? I'm Barbie." "My name's Alan." "No, wait, I'm Princess Allison," he stammered, blushing the same color as the dress and the ribbons in his hair. "Alan? I thought you were a princess." I'm Princess Allison." Alan could hardly believe he was going along with this. "I think you're the criminal, pretending to be a princess to escape from prison." "No, I am a real princess. My name is Allison." "Are you sure you're a real princess? Are you really a girl?" "Yes, I'm a girl called Allison," gulped Alan, blushing again and wanting the ground to swallow him up. "Do you have to wear bras yet, Allison? What boys do you like?" "But..." Alan could not bring himself to even pretend an answer. "Aha! You are the criminal. You're just wearing a dress to escape prison. Quick, Sergeant Teddy Bear, lock him up again." Alan found himself quickly tied to the bed again, this time in the pink dress with ribbons in his hair. "And for being so naughty, I sentence you to be tickled," laughed Jane as she descended on the helpless, satin-clad Alan and began to tickle him mercilessly. Emma laughed and joined in, ignoring Alan's protests, begging and girlish squeals. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. The girls stopped tickling him and Alan squirmed about on the bed, still tied, skirts in disarray and desperately trying not to be seen if someone else should enter the room. "Finish your game up now, girls. Alan's mom will be taking him home soon." "Okay, Mom," yelled Emma, "we'll be finished soon." "You've got until we finish our cups of tea." They heard the girl's mother walk away downstairs. Jane ran downstairs to fetch Alan's clothes while Emma untied him and began to undo the dress. Jane reappeared and threw Alan's clothes onto the bed. He picked up his underpants and saw a spider from the garden crawling about on them. He screamed again and threw them back out of the window. Jane and Emma laughed and refused to fetch them for him this time, so he was forced to keep the pink panties on while he removed the dress and put his jeans and t-shirt on. He was going downstairs to get his underpants from the garden when he realized he still had the 2 pink ribbons in his hair. Quickly he pulled them out and put them back in the girls' room. He reached the bottom of the stairs as his mother was coming from the kitchen. She had her coat on and was ready to go. Come on then, Alan, she said, heading for the front door. Wait a minute, Mum, he said, heading for the back door. She grabbed his arm and stopped him. No more time for playing, let's go, now. You can always come back round another day and finish your little game off. But, Mom. No. Come on, it's dinner time. You'll see the girls again in a couple of days. Say goodbye and get in the car. Alan said goodbye to Emma and Jane and left the house with his mom. As they sat in the car driving home, his mom gave him a strange look. Were you playing some sort of dressing-up game? Alan blushed, the memory of the dress and how his hair looked in pink ribbons fresh in his mind and the feel of the pink panties on his body embarrassing him as he sat there. Yes, we did. I thought so, replied his mother, and I'd suggest you wash your face when we get home, you seem to be wearing lipstick.